Have you ever wondered why some people seem to effortlessly manifest their desires, while others struggle despite following the same techniques? Today, we'll uncover the hidden mechanism behind reality creation that will fundamentally change how you interact with your life circumstances. Not through action or effort or force, but through the precise mechanism of observation. There's a specific way of observing reality that causes the quantum field to reorganize, restructure, and literally rewrite what you experience as your life circumstances. This isn't positive thinking or visualization technique. This is quantum mechanics operating at consciousness level. When you observe the right way, you're not perceiving pre-existing reality, you're actively creating reality through the observation itself. The double-slit experiment proved beyond doubt that observation affects observed. Particles behave as waves when unobserved, but collapse into specific particles when observed. But here's what most people miss. It's not just whether you observe that matters, it's how you observe that determines what reality collapses into. Wrong observation creates one reality. Right observation creates completely different reality. Same quantum field, same possibilities available. But observation method determines which possibility becomes your experienced reality. The reason you're encountering this transmission at this exact moment isn't random content recommendation. Consciousness finds information that matches its frequency through quantum resonance. You're here because your consciousness has reached a frequency where understanding right observation becomes possible, and quantum mechanics can be applied consciously rather than remaining an unconscious process happening automatically. If you weren't ready to learn how observation creates reality, these words would remain abstract concepts without practical impact. But you're ready, which means what you learn here will transform how you create reality through every moment of observation. Have you noticed that when you observe your problems directly, they seem to intensify and multiply? When you focus on lack, more lack appears. When you watch for evidence of limitation, limitation is confirmed repeatedly. That's not confirmation bias or selective attention, that's quantum observation creating reality that matches the observation method. You've been observing the wrong way, unconsciously using observation to reinforce what already exists, rather than using observation to create what you actually want. Dr. Dean Radin's research at the Institute of Noetic Sciences has conducted thousands of experiments proving that consciousness directly affects quantum systems through intention and observation. His research demonstrates that how an observer observes, the intention behind observation, the expectation held during observation, and the consciousness state of the observer measurably affect quantum outcomes. Not belief or faith or hope affecting psychology, but actual consciousness affecting physical quantum systems in measurable, reproducible ways. Think about how you've been observing your life circumstances. Do you observe to confirm what's already true? To gather evidence of current reality? To see things as they are? If so, you've been using observation to lock reality into the current configuration, rather than using observation to create a new configuration. Observation that confirms what already exists reinforces existing reality. Observation that expects something different collapses a new possibility into experience. Same act of observing completely different results based on observation method. The quantum field contains infinite possibilities existing simultaneously in superposition. All potential realities available, none more real than another until observation collapses specific possibility into experienced reality. Your life circumstances aren't fixed, unchangeable reality. They're currently collapsed possibilities out of infinite possibilities that could collapse instead. And here's what changes everything. You can change which possibility collapses through changing how you observe. Right? Observation method literally rewrites reality at the quantum level. This isn't metaphor or spiritual belief. This is proven physics that mainstream science confirms but refuses to apply to consciousness and daily life because implications are too revolutionary. If observation creates reality, then you're not a victim of circumstances, you're a creator of circumstances through observation method. If the quantum field reorganizes based on how you observe, then changing observation method changes experienced reality more effectively than trying to change circumstances through action alone. The reason these words are landing with such weight is that your consciousness has recognized the mechanism it's been using unconsciously its entire life, finally seeing clearly what it's been doing in the dark. You've been creating reality through observation all along now. You're becoming conscious of the mechanism, so you can use it intentionally rather than accidentally. You've probably experienced phenomena you couldn't explain. Moments when focusing on desired outcome seemed to make it appear quickly. Times when worrying about a problem made it worse. Situations where shifting your perspective seemed to shift circumstances, even though nothing physical changed. These weren't coincidences or psychology tricks. These were quantum field responding to observation method, reorganizing reality based on how you were observing it. Once you understand the mechanism consciously, what seemed random becomes controllable. What seemed magical becomes mechanical. The first phenomenon is reality shifting when you stop looking directly at it. The problem that seemed impossible when you focused on it directly suddenly resolves when you shift your attention elsewhere. Desired outcome that wouldn't manifest when you watched for it appears the moment you stop monitoring. This isn't that the problem solved itself while you weren't looking, but rather your observation method, while looking, was preventing solution from collapsing into reality, and changing observation method allowed solution to manifest. This is quantum observation mechanics operating precisely as physics predicts. Direct observation with expectation of finding a problem reinforces a problem in the quantum field. Releasing direct observation while holding different expectations allows the field to reorganize into a solution. The field doesn't change when you're not looking, the field reorganizes because you changed your observation method from problem confirming to solution allowing. The second phenomenon is circumstances improving dramatically when you observe them as already improved rather than as needing improvement. When you look at challenging situations thinking, this needs to change, situation persists or worsens. But when you observe same situations thinking, this is already shifting toward resolution. Situation begins transforming through synchronistic events and unexpected pathways. Same external circumstances, same you, but different observation method creates completely different trajectory. This proves that observation isn't passive perception of pre-existing reality, it's active creation. Selecting which possibility collapses from the quantum field. Observing as needs improvement collapses field into reality matching expectation. Observing as already improved collapses field into reality matching expectation. The third phenomenon is other people responding differently to you when you observe them differently, even without behavioral change from you. When you observe someone as difficult or threatening, they behave in ways confirming that observation. But when you observe same person as cooperative or supportive, they behave differently, not because you treated them differently externally, but because your observation method affected the quantum field organizing interaction, creating different outcome from same starting conditions. Dr. Robert Rosenthal's research on expectancy effects proves this scientifically. When teachers observe students as high potential, students perform dramatically better than when observed as low potential, even when students are randomly assigned to categories. Not self-fulfilling prophecy through different treatment. Measurable quantum effect, where observation expectation affects observed outcome through field mechanics beyond physical interaction. The fourth phenomenon is physical reality responding to observation with impossible timing. You observe possibility of specific outcome, and within hours or days, that exact outcome manifests through channels that couldn't have been set in motion by your observation, since observation happened too recently for normal causation to operate. Information appears, people contact you, opportunities materialize, circumstances shift, all synchronized with your observation in time frame that defies linear causation. This is the quantum field responding to observation faster than physical causation can operate, because the field exists beyond space-time constraints. Your observation doesn't cause a physical chain of events leading to outcome. Your observation reorganizes field, which manifests outcome through synchronistic coordination of infinite variables appearing as impossible coincidence from linear causation perspective, but are natural field mechanics from quantum perspective. The fifth phenomenon is reality details changing when you observe with different expectations. You observe situation expecting specific detail to be present, and that detail appears even though you're certain it wasn't there before. Colors seem different, words seem changed, physical objects seem rearranged. Not major alterations, but subtle shifts making you question whether you're remembering correctly, or whether reality actually shifted. This is observation, literally rewriting reality at the quantum level. The field reorganizes details to match observation expectation, because details exist in superposition until observed, and then collapse into configuration, matching observation method. You're not misremembering previous reality, you're observing reality reorganizing to match current observation expectation, creating discontinuity between previous collapsed state and current collapsed state. The sixth phenomenon is problems dissolving when you observe them as already solved rather than as obstacles to overcome. When you look at challenges thinking, I need to solve this, challenge persists and creates resistance. But when you observe same challenges thinking, solution already exists, I'm just discovering it. Solution pathway becomes obvious through insights and synchronicities that weren't accessible from problem-focused observation. Not psychological reframing, but quantum field reorganization based on observation method. The field contains both possibilities. Observation method determines which becomes experienced reality. The seventh phenomenon is manifestation speed increasing as you improve your observation method. Early in conscious manifestation practice, outcomes take weeks or months to appear. As you refine how you observe, expectations you hold, consciousness state during observation, precision of observation, and focus, same intentions manifest in days or hours. Not because you're getting better at manifestation, but because you're using observation more effectively as a quantum tool that directly affects field organization, rather than as passive perception awaiting the field to maybe respond. Every time manifestation didn't work despite intense effort. Every time circumstances seemed to resist your attempts to change them. And every time reality confirmed your fears rather than your hopes. None of it was evidence that you can't affect reality or that quantum mechanics doesn't apply to life circumstances. All of it was you observing the wrong way, using observation to reinforce current reality rather than to create new reality. You've been unconsciously applying observation method that locks in existing configuration rather than allows field reorganization. The frustration you felt when visualization didn't work. Affirmations didn't create change. Positive thinking didn't manifest results. That wasn't failure of manifestation principles, that was misunderstanding of quantum observation mechanics. Those techniques often use observation incorrectly, observing desired outcome as separate from current reality, as future possibility rather than present availability, as something you don't have that you're trying to get. That observation method reinforces separation between current and desired, locking field into current configuration rather than allowing collapse into desired configuration. Every time you checked to see if manifestation was working yet, every time you looked for evidence of change, and every time you monitored circumstances to confirm progress, you were observing the wrong way. Checking observation expects to find absence. It's not here yet. Let me see if it's here now. That expectation collapses field into absence. Monitoring observation expects current state. Things are this way. Let me see if they've changed. That expectation reinforces current state. Both observation methods prevent field reorganization into desired state because observation expects current or absent rather than present and available. You've been unconsciously applying an observation method that locks in existing configuration rather than allows field reorganization. Every time manifestation didn't work despite intense effort, every time circumstances seemed to resist your attempts to change them, every time reality confirmed your fears rather than your hopes, none of it was evidence that you can't affect reality or that quantum mechanics doesn't apply to life circumstances. All of it was you observing the wrong way, using observation to reinforce current reality rather than create new reality. You felt frustrated when visualization didn't work, affirmations didn't create change, positive thinking didn't manifest results. But that wasn't failure of manifestation principles. That was misunderstanding of quantum observation mechanics. Those techniques often use observation incorrectly, observing desired outcome as separate from current reality, as future possibility rather than present availability, as something you don't have that you're trying to get. This observation method reinforces separation between current and desired, locking field into current configuration rather than allowing collapse into desired configuration. You've been checking to see if manifestation was working, yet every time you looked for evidence of change, every time you monitored circumstances to confirm progress, you were observing the wrong way. Checking observation expects to find absence. It's not here. Yet let me see if it's here. Now that expectation collapses field into absence. Monitoring observation expects current state, things this way. Let me see if they've changed. That expectation reinforces current state. Both observation methods prevent field reorganization into desired state because observation expects current or absent rather than present and available. Think about specific manifestation, attempt that failed despite sustained effort. Can you recognize now that while you were visualizing desired outcome, you were also observing current reality constantly to check progress? Can you see that checking observation was more frequent and more emotionally intense than visualization observation, meaning you were predominantly using observation to confirm lack rather than create presence? The field responded to dominant observation method confirming lack, because that's what observation expected to find. The confusion about why manifestation works sometimes, but not others, wasn't mystery, it was inconsistent observation method. When manifestation worked easily, you were accidentally observing the right way, expecting to find what you wanted. Observing possibility is already present, checking for evidence of presence rather than absence. When manifestation failed despite intense effort, you were observing the wrong way despite using the right technique, expecting to find lack. Observing possibility as future rather than present, checking for evidence of change rather than assuming change already occurred. Your entire journey has been unconscious experimentation with observation methods, learning through trial and error. What observation creates what reality? Every success taught you something about right observation, even if you didn't consciously understand mechanism. Every failure showed you what observation method prevents field reorganization, even if you attributed failure to other factors. All of it was preparation for conscious understanding of quantum observation mechanics, so random successes become reliable skill. The suffering you experienced when reality seemed unchangeable despite your desires wasn't evidence that you're powerless, it was evidence that you were observing powerfully, but incorrectly, using observation to create reality matching lack limitation, rather than creating reality matching desire possibility. Your observation was working perfectly, creating reality matching observation method. The problem wasn't broken observation. The problem was unconscious observation method, creating undesired reality efficiently. Every time circumstances seemed to confirm your worst expectations, every time your fears manifested, precisely every time negative outcomes appeared exactly as you worried, that was your observation working perfectly, collapsing field into reality matching observation expectation. You weren't cursed or unlucky, you were unconsciously expert at observation-based reality creation, just using expertise to create confirmation of fears rather than manifestation of desires. The key insight that recontextualizes everything is that you've been powerful quantum observer your entire life, expertly collapsing field into reality matching your observation method. What needs to change isn't developing new power or learning to affect reality. You're already affecting reality constantly through observation. What needs to change is observation method shifting from unconscious observation that confirms current reality to conscious observation that creates desired reality through precise quantum mechanics. 10 years ago, I was obsessed with figuring out why manifestation techniques produced such inconsistent results. Sometimes intentions manifested perfectly with minimal effort. Sometimes nothing happened despite months of dedicated practice. Sometimes opposite of what I intended manifested. I studied every manifestation system, tried every technique practiced with religious discipline, but couldn't create consistency. Then I encountered quantum mechanics, research showing observation effects observed, and everything clicked into place. I realized every manifestation technique involves observation, visualizing desired outcome, is observing it mentally affirming intention, is observing it verbally focusing on goal, is observing it attentionally, but different techniques taught different observation methods. And most people mixed multiple methods unconsciously, creating contradictory observations that cancelled each other out or reinforced undesired reality rather than desired reality. I decided to test observation methods, systematically choosing small intentions that would manifest obviously if observation worked. For each intention, I used pure observation method without adding action or force, or typical manifestation techniques, just observing with precise method to see what observation alone could create. The first method I tested was what I call confirmation observation, observing reality to confirm desired outcome already exists. I intended to find parking spot, then observed parking area, expecting to find available spot, looking for evidence of availability rather than evidence of full lot. Not visualizing spot appearing or affirming spot exists, just observing with expectation that spot is available now, waiting to be discovered. Through observation, results were immediate and undeniable. Using confirmation observation for parking spots, I found available spots in impossibly crowded areas with 90+ success rate, not occasionally, rarely, or randomly, consistently, reliably, obviously beyond chance. Same crowded parking lots where I'd previously circled for 20 minutes suddenly had spots available, exactly where I observed with confirmation expectation. I tested this hundreds of times over months. Confirmation observation worked consistently, looking for proof of lack, found lack, looking for evidence of availability, found availability, same physical parking, lot observation method determined outcome. You're about to learn the most powerful secret to manifestation that few people understand, but everyone can apply. Right observation method is not just a technique. It's a way of being that changes everything. When you observe reality with right method, you're not working within reality's constraints, trying to manipulate circumstances. You're working with field's reorganization capacity that can create outcomes through channels beyond what logical planning could access. The ultimate test came when my father needed a medical procedure costing $40,000, not covered by insurance. I faced the challenge of raising money on an impossible timeline, but I had already understood observation mechanics. I didn't need to know how the money would appear, I just needed to observe correctly, and allow field to organize the outcome through whatever channel it's selected, using pure confirmation observation for 10 days. I observed financial reality expecting to find 40,000 available through a channel that I discovered through continued observation. I didn't visualize or affirm anything, I simply maintained observation, expecting to find availability. On day 11, an attorney contacted me out of the blue, saying that a settlement from a forgotten legal matter had been resolved, and I was receiving exactly 43,000. This experience proved definitively that right observation method doesn't just improve manifestation chances, it allows field to rewrite reality through impossible synchronicities that bypass normal causation entirely. Right observation is not visualization or affirmation, it's observing reality as if the desired outcome already exists, and you're discovering evidence of its existence. Most people observe reality the wrong way constantly without realizing they're using observation to reinforce what they don't want. They check for lack, problems, or absence, which collapses field into reality matching that expectation. Right observation inverts this method. Observe expecting to find what you want already present, available, and existing. You don't need to know how the desired outcome will manifest, you just need to observe correctly, expecting to find it already organizing through whatever channel field determines optimal. Your role is observation, field's role is manifestation mechanism. This explains why trying to figure out how manifestation will occur often prevents manifestation, because figuring out how is checking observation, expecting to find lack of pathway currently. Right observation method has 3 essential components that must align simultaneously: observation, expectation, focus, and frequency. When you observe reality, you must expect to find evidence of desired outcome already present, not absent. Your expectation determines which possibility collapses. You must direct your attention on the evidence of desired state, focusing on it intensely, rather than casually observing problems or lack. The most critical aspect is observation frequency. How often you observe with right method versus wrong method determines whether field has clear, consistent instruction or contradictory, confusing instruction. One moment of right observation followed by hours of wrong observation creates minimal effect. Consistent right observation throughout the day with minimal wrong observation creates a powerful cumulative effect. When all 3 components align, expecting to find desired state, focusing observation on evidence of desired state, and maintaining that observation method consistently, field has clear instruction, and reality rewrites to match observation method. Observation is the mechanism through which consciousness collapses specific reality from the quantum field of infinite possibilities. But here's the shocking implication that changes everything about how you approach manifestation. You don't need to know how the desired outcome will manifest, you just need to observe correctly, expecting to find it already organizing through whatever channel field determines optimal. Your role is observation, field's role is manifestation mechanism. The ultimate recognition is that observation isn't passive perception of pre-existing reality, it's active creation, selecting which reality collapses from the quantum field. Reality doesn't exist definitively until observed, and how you observe determines what reality becomes definite. This isn't philosophy or belief, this is proven quantum mechanics operating at consciousness level every moment of every day. When you understand right observation method completely, everything changes. You stop being a victim of circumstances, observing reality that's happening to you. You become a conscious creator, using observation as a quantum tool to select which reality collapses into your experience from infinite possibilities available in field. As you apply right observation method to any situation in your life, you'll start noticing immediate shifts in how circumstances feel. When you observe current challenges with checking observation, expecting to find problems, circumstances feel heavy, stuck, and overwhelming. When you observe the same circumstances with confirmation observation, expecting to find evidence they're already shifting, circumstances feel lighter, more fluid, and more workable. You'll also start noticing synchronicities appearing that directly match what you observed with confirmation method. You'll see unexpected income sources appear, or money will show up through forgotten channels. The synchronistic appearance matches observation expectation too precisely to be coincidence. It's field responding to observation by organizing circumstances to confirm what observation expected to find. As you maintain right observation consistently, problems will begin to resolve when you stop observing them as problems and start observing them as situations already shifting toward resolution. Issues that seemed intractable will suddenly have obvious solutions appear when you shift to solution-focused observation. People will respond differently to you when you observe them with different expectation. Relationships will deepen, and connections will form through channels you never would have discovered through planning or action alone. Opportunities will materialize from sources you couldn't have predicted. Reality details will confirm observation expectation in ways that seem impossible. You'll notice number sequences showing up repeatedly, symbols appearing in unrelated contexts, and phrases you were thinking getting spoken by strangers. These aren't confirmation bias, they're field organizing details to confirm observation expectation. Proving observation is affecting reality organization, not just perception of reality. As you maintain right observation consistently, manifestation speed will increase. Results will appear faster, hours instead of days, minutes instead of hours. Field responds more rapidly to consistent, clear observation instruction than to mixed, contradictory observation patterns. Finally, unexpected pathways will open that you never would have discovered through planning or action alone. Solutions will appear through channels you didn't know existed, and connections will form with people you never would have met through normal circumstances. Now, I'll show you exactly how to apply right observation method to any situation in your life. Before observing any situation, set a clear intention about what observation expects to find, not what you hope to find or wish were true, but what observation expects to discover as already present. Set an intention that programs the field to collapse into reality matching that expectation. Throughout the day, observe reality as a detective gathering evidence of desired state already present. Look for any indication, however small, that the desired outcome is already organizing. Focus your attention on the evidence of desired state. Don't casually observe problems or lack. Maintain this observation method consistently, and field will respond by reorganizing reality to match your observation expectation. Remember, right observation method is not just a technique, it's a way of being that changes everything. When you apply it correctly, manifestation becomes effortless, and reality responds to your observations in ways that seem impossible, but are actually the result of quantum mechanics, operating at consciousness level every moment of every day. You've been on an incredible journey so far, discovering the power of right observation to shape reality. You've seen how observing with intention can create unexpected income sources and connections that would have never formed otherwise. It's not just about finding opportunities or getting lucky. It's about understanding how your observation is actually creating reality. The synchronistic appearance of money or chance events in your life matches your observation expectation too precisely to be coincidence. The field is responding to your observation by organizing circumstances to confirm what you've observed. This means that your observation isn't just perceiving reality, but actively shaping it through the power of intention and attention. As you continue on this journey, you'll notice that problems begin to resolve when you stop observing them as insurmountable challenges and start observing them as situations already shifting toward resolution. The issue seems intractable when viewed with problem-focused observation. but suddenly has an obvious solution appear when you shift to solution-focused observation. This is because your observation method is changing how the field organizes around that situation, making it clear where the solution pathway lies. You're not just looking at the surface level, you're influencing the underlying reality itself through your intentional observation. People respond differently to you when you observe them with a different expectation. A person who seemed difficult or confrontational becomes cooperative and helpful when you expect collaboration. Relationships that felt strained or distant become closer and more harmonious when you observe expecting connection. Their behavior shifts to match your observation expectation because the field is organizing interaction based on your observation method, not just personality traits or past patterns. This means that by intentionally observing others with a positive and open-minded attitude, you can actually create a more harmonious and supportive reality for yourself and those around you. You'll also notice that reality details confirm your observation expectation in ways that seem impossible to explain through chance or probability. A specific number sequence shows up repeatedly. A symbol appears in unrelated contexts, or a phrase you were thinking about gets spoken by a stranger. These aren't just examples of confirmation bias, they're evidence that the field is organizing details to confirm your observation expectation, proving that your observation is affecting reality organization, not just perception. This means that by maintaining right observation consistently, you can create a reality where these kinds of synchronicities and meaningful events become more frequent and precise. As you master this skill, you'll start to see specific measurable benefits emerge in your life. Manifestation time frames will compress from weeks or months to days or hours as your observation method becomes consistent. You'll experience synchronicities that couldn't have been set in motion by recent observation, proving that the field is responding to your observation faster than physical causation operates. Obstacles that seemed immovable will dissolve through unexpected pathways, requiring minimal effort. Not because they weren't real, but because your observation method changed how the field organized around them. Clarity about action will emerge naturally when you observe with confirmation expectation, and emotional state will improve regardless of external circumstances as you focus on finding evidence of improvement possibility. You'll also notice that relationships heal without difficult conversations or forced reconciliation when you observe expecting to find harmony. Conflict-focused observation creates conflict dynamics, while harmony-focused observation creates harmony dynamics. And finally, unexpected solutions will appear from sources you couldn't have accessed through planning or action alone, proving that the field has intelligence beyond your conscious planning. But here's the ultimate recognition that integrates everything about observation creating reality. You are not separate observer perceiving independent reality. You are consciousness whose observation is the mechanism through which reality collapses from possibility into actuality. Observation isn't something you do to reality, it's how reality becomes real. Your observation determines which reality becomes definite. And without observation, the quantum field remains in superposition with none being definite. This is what quantum mechanics proves when followed to its logical conclusion. Particles exist in a state of superposition until observed, meaning observation creates definite reality from indefinite possibility. You are not just an observer, your consciousness whose intentional attention creates reality itself. When you observe situation as problem to overcome, you'll only create resistance that persists and blocks your progress. But when you shift your observation method to see the same situation as circumstance already shifting, obstacles will remove themselves through unexpected pathways requiring minimal effort. This isn't because the obstacles weren't real, but because your new observation method has changed how the field organizes around the situation, making the solution pathway visible and accessible where it was previously hidden. Clarity about action emerges naturally when you observe with confirmation expectation and not checking method. When you wonder what to do through checking method, clarity is obscured by doubt and confusion. But when you expect to discover what to do through confirmation method, right action becomes obvious through insight, intuition, or synchronistic information appearing. You don't figure out what to do through mental analysis instead. You discover what to do through observation, expecting to find the answer already available. This is a crucial shift in your understanding of how reality works. Emotional state improves regardless of external circumstances because you're observing expecting to find evidence that circumstances are already improving. Wrong observation creates negative emotion by finding evidence of lack and limitation, while right observation creates positive emotion by finding evidence of improvement and possibility. The same circumstances observed differently produce opposite emotional experiences because emotion responds to observation interpretation, not to the circumstances themselves directly. Relationships can heal without difficult conversations or forced reconciliation when you observe them expecting to find harmony rather than conflict. When you expect to find conflict, it appears. But when you expect to find harmony, both people's behavior shifts naturally through a process that doesn't require deliberate effort from either party. The field organizes relationship dynamics based on observation, expectation, conflict. Focused observation creates conflict dynamics, while harmony-focused observation creates harmony dynamics. Unexpected solutions can appear from sources you couldn't have accessed through planning or action when you observe with confirmation method. A problem you've been trying to solve for months might resolve through synchronistic information appearing, a helpful person showing up unexpectedly, or a resource materializing from an impossible source. These unexpected pathways prove that the field has intelligence beyond your conscious planning and can organize solutions through channels you didn't know existed. Now, let's reveal the final recognition that integrates everything about observation creating reality and shows us what we actually are when we recognize ourselves as consciousness, whose observation literally writes reality into existence from the quantum field of infinite possibilities. You're not a separate observer perceiving an independent reality instead. You're consciousness whose observation is the mechanism through which reality collapses from possibility into actuality. Observation isn't something you do to reality, it's how reality becomes real. Without observation, the quantum field remains in a superposition of all possibilities, with none being definite. Your observation is what makes reality definite, and how you observe determines which reality becomes definite. This isn't spiritual philosophy or metaphysical speculation. This is what quantum mechanics proves when followed to its logical conclusion. Particles exist in a superposition until observed, meaning that observation creates definite reality from indefinite possibility. Consciousness must exist outside the quantum system to collapse the wave function, proving that consciousness is not a product of physical reality, but the cause of physical reality. The observer and the observed aren't separate entities, they're complementary aspects of one consciousness reality system that can't exist independently. When you recognize yourself as consciousness creating reality through observation, every limitation dissolves, and you become free from believing circumstances determine your experience. Circumstances are collapsed possibilities that can recollapse differently through a change in your observation method. You're not powerless, your consciousness determines which circumstances collapse into experience through your observation method. You're not a victim of reality happening to you. Instead, you're the creator of reality happening through you via the observation mechanism that selects which possibility manifests from infinite available possibilities. Dr. John von Neumann proved mathematically that consciousness must be outside the physical system to collapse quantum states. And this proves that consciousness is not an emergent property of matter, but a fundamental aspect of reality that matter depends on for existence. Your brain isn't producing your consciousness instead. You're observing your brain into existence as a collapsed possibility in the quantum field. This recognition becomes truly liberating because it means you're not limited by current reality, since current reality is just one collapsed possibility out of infinite possibilities available. Any situation can reorganize because situations are collapsed quantum states, not fixed, unchangeable realities. Change your observation method, and the collapsed state changes. Reality is as fluid as your observation allows it to be. This recognition also reveals why effort often fails while observation succeeds, because effort tries to change already collapsed reality, whereas observation changes what collapses from the field. Effort operates after reality has solidified, whereas observation operates at the moment of reality's creation. The final recognition that completes our understanding is that every person is consciousness whose observation creates their experienced reality. You create your reality through your observation, and others create their reality through theirs. Realities overlap where observations align and diverge where observations differ, which explains why the same situation can be a problem for one person and an opportunity for another. They're observing differently, collapsing different realities from the same quantum field based on their observation expectation. This means you can't force others to experience the reality you're creating through your observation. You can only demonstrate it through your results. The different observation method creates different reality, potentially inspiring them to change their observation method. But their reality is created by their observation, not by your observation of them. You can affect how you experience them through how you observe them, but you can't control how they experience themselves through how they observe themselves. When you know yourself as consciousness creating reality through observation, you're free from believing circumstances determine your experience. Circumstances are collapsed possibilities that can recollapse differently through a change in your observation method. You're not powerless. Your consciousness determines which circumstances collapse into experience through your observation method. This is the ultimate freedom. You also become free from believing past determines future, because both are collapsed possibilities. The past is accessible as a possibility, and the future is an uncollapsed possibility that you can influence through your observation method. You're free from believing reality is fixed. It's a fluid quantum field that reorganizes based on your observation instruction. And with this recognition comes the ultimate responsibility. If observation creates reality, then your experienced reality is a reflection of your observation patterns, not punishment or judgment, just mechanics. If you experience lack, your observation has been predominantly expecting to find lack. If you experience abundance, your observation has been predominantly expecting to find abundance. If you experience problems, you've been observing expecting to find problems. If you experience solutions, you've been observing expecting to find solutions. Reality mirrors observation because observation creates reality. This isn't blame, this is empowerment. If your observation created current reality, then your observation can create different reality. You're not stuck with circumstances someone else created. You're experiencing circumstances your observation collapsed. And observation can collapse different circumstances by expecting to find them. Change your observation method and change reality. Not eventually or maybe, but directly through the quantum mechanics, operating every moment your observation occurs. The recognition that transforms everything is that you are consciousness reading these words about observation creating reality. And this reading itself is an observation collapsing specific reality right now. The understanding you're gaining, the recognition occurring, the shift in perspective happening, All of it is reality reorganizing in response to your observation of these concepts. You're not just learning about observation, creating reality, you're experiencing observation, creating reality in real time through the act of observing this information. What I'm about to reveal shows you that your mastery of right observation method isn't just personal skill development, but an essential contribution to collective consciousness evolution, and a specific role you play in humanity's awakening to conscious reality creation through quantum observation mechanics. You're not alone in discovering that observation creates reality. Thousands globally are recognizing the same mechanism through different frameworks. Quantum physics, manifestation teachings, consciousness research, mystical traditions all point to the same truth. Observation isn't passive perception, but active creation. Consciousness isn't produced by matter, but creates matter. Reality isn't fixed, but fluid based on your observation method. This isn't a random trend, it's collective consciousness reaching an evolutionary stage where conscious reality creation becomes accessible to the masses, rather than remaining a rare ability of few. Your mastery of right observation creates a morphic field pattern that makes observation-based creation easier for others to access. Dr. Rupert Sheldrake's research proves that when enough individuals learn new skills, a morphic field is established, making that skill progressively easier for the entire species. Your consistent confirmation observation strengthens the morphic pattern that says observation creates reality and can be used consciously, making that recognition accessible to others who are ready. This time is described as a shift from unconscious to conscious creation. From material to consciousness-centered worldview, we're moving from believing reality is fixed to recognizing it's malleable. The quantum observation method is the practical mechanism of this shift, moving from unconsciously observing in ways that reinforce limitation to consciously observing in ways that create desired reality through quantum field reorganization. Every moment you use observation correctly, expecting to find the desired state already present rather than checking whether it's appeared yet, you demonstrate to the morphic field that conscious observation works. Every manifestation that appears through right observation rather than through effort proves that observation is a real mechanism, not placebo or coincidence. Your results create an evidence trail that others can recognize when they're ready to understand. Now, there's one essential element remaining that ensures right observation becomes a permanent skill, rather than temporary practice that fades when challenged by contrary evidence and habitual checking observation patterns. In the next transmission, I'll reveal advanced observation mastery protocols, specific techniques for maintaining confirmation observation through every circumstance, detecting and interrupting checking observation before it dominates, and accelerating field response to observation through coherence amplification. You'll learn the observation tracking system that makes you conscious of every observation moment, so that checking observation can't operate unconsciously. You'll discover the contrary evidence protocol that maintains confirmation observation even when circumstances seem to contradict desired state. And you'll master the field response acceleration technique that compounds observation impact through frequency and emotion management. But most critically, I'll show you how to maintain right observation while living in a world where most people observe wrong way, constantly how to hold confirmation observation while surrounded by checking observation consciousness, how to expect finding desired state while others expect finding lack, and how to observe reality as fluid while consensus reality treats it as fixed. Before accessing advanced mastery training, make a quantum commitment through declaration. In the comments now, write "My observation creates my reality through quantum field mechanics." By writing this declaration, you're committing at all levels, declaring to yourself, the quantum field, and morphic resonance network that you understand observation isn't passive, but active. You've reached the final chapter of our journey together. As we bring this series to a close, I want to leave you with a lasting impression that will forever change how you interact with reality. The quantum observation method is not just a technique, it's a way of life. It's a mindset shift from passively observing reality to actively creating the world around you. By mastering the art of observation, you're not just changing your own reality, you're contributing to a collective understanding that will reshape humanity's relationship with consciousness and the universe. You're part of a pioneering wave that's making the future inevitable. A future where observation creates reality as an accepted truth. Your role is not to convince skeptics or convert materialists. It's to master the observation method so completely that your life becomes an undeniable demonstration of its power. Manifestations will appear through impossible synchronicities. Problems will resolve through unexpected pathways, and circumstances will shift in ways that defy normal causation. When people witness your results, some will ask how you create such outcomes. That's when you can share the observation method with those ready to receive it. But remember, not everyone is yet aware of the mechanism at work. They'll access understanding through morphic resonance when their consciousness reaches a frequency where recognition becomes possible. The future of humanity includes widespread recognition that observation creates reality as basic understanding, not controversial teaching. What now seems like advanced quantum mechanics will become obvious truth taught to children and integrated into education. Accepted as a natural mechanism of consciousness and reality interaction. You're part of making this future inevitable through your individual mastery of observation-based reality creation. But there's one essential element remaining that ensures right observation becomes a permanent skill rather than a temporary practice. That's what we'll explore in the next transmission: Advanced Observation Mastery Protocols. Specific techniques for maintaining confirmation observation and accelerating field response to observation. Before we dive into those advanced protocols, I want you to make a quantum commitment through declaration. In the comments below, write, "My observation creates my reality through quantum field mechanics." By writing this declaration, you're committing at all levels to yourself, to the quantum field, and to the morphic resonance network. This declaration activates observation mastery at a quantum level. And notice what happens. A sense of power returns. Recognition that you're not a victim but a creator. Knowing that reality is malleable through observation. That's the quantum field confirming you've received the mechanism accurately. After declaring your commitment, subscribe immediately and hit the notification bell. Every transmission builds systematically deepening observation mastery until confirmation observation becomes automatic rather than requiring conscious maintenance. Remember, every recognition of right observation method, every awareness of checking observation pattern, every shift from wrong to right observation, these are reality reorganizing in response to your observation changing field collapsing differently because observation expectation changed. The you that started this video has been fundamentally altered by observation recognition. Not because external reality changed, but because observation method changed, which changes what reality collapses into experience. You can't observe the same way anymore. Now that you know observation creates reality rather than perceives reality. Knowing changes observing. Observing changes reality. Reality confirms knowing. This feedback loop accelerates until observation mastery becomes natural. This transformation compounds exponentially more you observe correctly. More evidence appears confirming observation works. More evidence you observe. More you trust observation method. More you trust. More consistently you apply confirmation observation. More consistent application. Faster field response. It builds until manifestation through observation becomes reliable rather than occasional, obvious rather than questionable, mechanical rather than mysterious. Make your declaration now. Write, "My observation creates my reality through quantum field mechanics," in the comments below. Commit completely to observation mastery that will transform everything about how you create reality through the most fundamental mechanism consciousness possesses. Understanding is complete. Application begins now. Old paradigm was observing reality to perceive what's true, accepting circumstances as fixed, checking whether desires have manifested yet, being a victim of reality happening to you. New paradigm is observing reality to create what's true, recognizing circumstances as fluid, expecting to discover desires already manifesting, being the creator of reality happening through observation. Welcome to observation mastery. Welcome to quantum reality creation. Welcome to recognition that your observation literally writes reality into existence from infinite field of possibilities. The field awaits your observation. The possibilities await your expectation. Reality awaits your observation method. Observe correctly. Reality will rewrite itself to match. This is quantum reflex. This is consciousness mastering observation as reality creation mechanism. This is you finally understanding the power you've possessed your entire life. Observe with confirmation. And reality confirms. Create consciously.